Okay, so this vitalware training session will be to teach you how to go to the corporate charge master in vitalware, how to view your charge master, and how to request new items from the corporate standard to your department. So in order to access vitalware, you would go up into your web browser and you would type in www.vitalware.com, and it will take you to the vitalware main page. In the upper right corner, there is a client login, and you go ahead and click on that, and it'll take you to the login page for vitalware. Once you receive training, you will receive your username and password from me, and I will send that information to you on how to access vitalware as well. So once you log into vitalware, it will take you to the main dashboard, and it's called the main dashboard because it's the tab right here. Above the main dashboard tab is the products button, and you would click on that products button, go to billing, vital CDM, and this is where your charge master is held as well as the corporate standard. Depending on what facility you have access for, if you have multi-facilities access, it would default to that facility here on the left-hand side of the screen. Now it will say no CDMs found because it's waiting for you to put in some search criteria right over here. When you log in, this is your charge master. This is your facility charge master. So for instance, if I was at Alton, that information would default to Alton charge master. And to my department, you would be assigned your departments here. And for instance, if I am PET scan, then I would hit the search there for my charges to come up into this view. Now, if I knew that I needed to request an item from the charge master, from the corporate standard, I would make sure that my criteria here is defaulted to my hospital. And if I was a multi-facility user where you would default to BJC Healthcare, I would make sure that I would choose Alton or Christian, Progress West, or St. Peter's. Make sure that this charge master here defaults to what charge you want to bring from the corporate to your charge master. So we'll go ahead and stay at Alton, and I know that I need a charge from the corporate standard, so I'm going to go up to this View Corporate button here. And while it loads, this page is going to look exactly the same as your CDM view. And you'll notice here that you have two tabs. One says CDM, and if I switch back to it, you'll see that it goes back to PET scan for Alton Memorial. And if I go back to the corporate CDM, this is where the corporate charge masters are located. And you know that because this says BJC Soaring Corporate Standard right here on the left-hand side. You would choose your group for BJC hospitals. This is a requirement. You always have to choose that. And then I would go down and I would choose for what corporate facility or ancillary area that I'm looking for. For instance, PET scan would be located in the radiology area. So I would choose radiology and hit search. And this would bring back all the approved items for radiology as a committee as they have approved for charges that they could charge through each facility. You can modify your columns by hovering between any column header and click and drag just like that. If you need to move columns around, you can go to the CPT code field if you want any of these column headers, and you can move it around to where you can have it in your view and you can see your information better. If I'm looking for a particular charge, and we're just going to take one as an example, for instance, let's do the aspiration right down here of the joint. What I would do is I would click on here on this particular line, and I would right click and say add one item to new child request. That new child is your Alton charge master right over here. So it knows that when you select that, it's going to push it to the Alton charge master. And when we get into the request, you'll define it even further for your department. So going back, we're going to go ahead and select the aspiration. And even if I realize that, you know what, I don't just need this aspiration, I need the injection of the sinus tract. And so you can hit Control and select the multiple lines that you need. And as many as you need in that one particular screen. And you can right click and add 4 items to new child request. So I'm going to go ahead and select yes on here for the copy items. Now for storing facilities, you would select yes. For SMS facilities and HMS facility, you would hit no, because that would not, we do not want your UGSI that's in this column right here to copy over to your SMS or HMS service code. I'm from Alton, so I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And when we create a new request, you would select your route, and these are procedures. So I'm going to do the add, change, delete procedures. The form title is exactly what you want to name your request, so you know what's inside that request when you're looking at these, when it's going through the motions of being approved and going through the approval process. So I will just put ads for PET scan. You leave the proposed effective date alone. This is the vitalware effective date. It just defaults to this day. And you go ahead and hit submit. And what it will do is it's going to bring these requests into a separate tab, and it's going to open up right here for us. So you can see the 4 items that I selected are now in this request tab, and you know this is my request because it has the title that I gave it right here. As I click on the first line, you'll notice on the right-hand side, the fields open up for additional information. Everything in red is required fields before I can submit my request. Now, if I go back over to the CDM, you see that right here, it wants your entity. And if you're not familiar with what your entity is, you can go back to your CDM tab, and it's the first 3 letters of the the first 3 numbers of the SPSI. So I know that I'm going to type in 104 for Alton. You hit tab, and then it's going to ask for your department. And you can start typing in your department. If you don't know your number, which is the first 4 numbers here in front of the description, I can type in AMH PET scan or whatever department you have. If you click on that, it'll bring that information there into the view for you. I can continue to tab down. I will bypass the technical fields, the billing name, the short names, the revenue codes and CPT codes, even the pricing information. This is all brought from the corporate, so you don't have to modify any of that information. So as I tab down to the start date, I'll just put 1/1/2015. The stop date is what triggers the actual charge to inactivate. So if you're not going to inactivate that charge, I'd recommend just completely bypassing that field. As I'm tabbing down, I'm looking for more areas that I'm required to fill in. And this is a brand new charge, so your start date and your price effective date would be exactly the same. And you'll notice it says $701 for this one line. That was pushed from the corporate because it knows that at Alton, that's the price for this particular procedure. As I hit save, it checks for errors, so it does a QA check, and so I intentionally left one in error so that we could show you what an error would look like. And right here it says the form fields may not be submitted with invalid values. So as I hit OK, I'm going through and I'm looking for where that particular issue might be. So it still has the price effective date in red, so it's telling me that it does not like that information. And as I tab off, you'll notice that the red goes away. So that means I met the criteria for that particular field. That was an example of how you can modify the fields on one line. If I have the same information on all my lines and I want to add them all together, you have that option as well. If you click on the first line and then hit shift and click on the last line, your field view over here changes a little bit and it says multi-edit selected items. If I click on that button, this window will come up and all the fields will be blank. And that's just telling you that it's ready to take your information. It's not going to make everything blank in the tabs or in the lines behind you. It's just going to fill in whatever you fill in from these particular fields. So I know that my entity is 104. I know that it's all going to AMH PET scan. So I'm going to click on that. And I know that the technical and billing information, all the descriptions, CPT codes, revenue codes are going to be populated for me. So I'm going to bypass all of that information and go to my start date again and type in that date. Continue on down to the price effective date and type in that date as well. And then hit save. And then it will populate all that information for us in the back. A little bit of a time saver. All right, so in addition, when I want to add a new item, it's always helpful to put a few comments in so that the people who are approving your request know exactly why you need this. If you're doing new procedures, any additional information that helps push this request along through the approval process. And so if I highlight all these lines and I go down to the lower right, there's a line item comments, and I can say add comment to for request items. And I'm just going to type in, this is a test. But if for you guys, what you would do is you put in, is this a new procedure? Is this something that's the committee approved that we could start utilizing in your department? Something of that nature that just gives more information about the request. And as I hit save, I'm going to click back on a single line and go, and you can see your comments is right there. And this little settings button will allow you to modify your comment if you need to, if you mistyped or you have a typo in there, or you can delete it as a whole. But just know that once you put a comment in there and the request goes through, that comment is on that line always. And so you want to be careful of what you state in these particular comments. In addition to comments, you also have line item file attachments right here. If you had an email with someone asking you to build this charge in your department or any additional information that's needed, you can upload documents into that request via this file attachments button. After you've done everything you needed to do and you have all your fields populated as required, then you can go up and you go to this action button and you can select submit requests. What this will do is it will push you through your finance departments and your CDM department for approvals and reviews to add additional information like your SPSIs. We check the CPT and HCPCS codes to make sure they're still accurate. And then you will get an email that looks similar to this, and it will tell you the status of your request. So you would see that it's submitted, the work queue that it's going through, who requested it, and then all the fields that you filled in here will also be in the email, as well as any comments that was made to the account, not just your comments, but anybody going through the request process. And each time this is moved along to different queues, you'll receive an email very similar to this, stating which queue it's in. And when it's final approved, it will say approved right here with a state, and you'll have your SPSI populated here. For SMS facilities and HMS facilities, that SPSI will actually say service code, and it will have your service code populated here. Going back to the request, not only can you use the email to check your status, you can go to the request tab, which is right here next to the CDM tab. And you can see your request and the state that it's in. For instance, here's my ads for PET scan. And right now, I didn't actually hit submit on the action button. So you can see that the work queue says draft and the state says draft. If I'm wondering the status of my request and I don't think it's going anywhere, come to this tab, look at your request. If it says draft, you have to submit it in order for it to go through the approval process. So go to your request by double clicking, action, and then submit. You can make changes to your request up until it's submitted. After submitted, you can no longer change anything in the request. If it's an invalid request, we will deny it or return it to you for corrections. And then once you submit it, the state will change to either submitted or return to requester if we need corrections. And your work queue will tell you which queue it's in. So that was a simple add from the corporate under the View Corporate button, which is right here still up in the top of your grid. The SMS facilities and HMS facilities is very, very similar. You go through the same functions, just that you'll have a service code where an SPSI is for the Saurian facilities. And it goes through the finance departments and the charge master departments for approvals. Now, if I'm looking at my charge master, and I'm here on my charge master tab, and I know that there is something I need to change in my charge master. From a facility department, there's very little that you can change at a facility level unless it's something like a supply, or if you want to inactivate a charge in your charge master. So I'm going to pick a different department to do as an example. We'll go to Echo. And if there is a supply here that I know I need to change the price on, I can go to that supply. And let's find one right down here. And if I know that that cost needs to change, if the cost is increased, therefore my price needs to increase. The supply pricing is set at the facility level, so you could generate that request from your department charge master, and it does not involve the corporate at that time. So what I would do is I would find that particular charge in my charge master. Again, I would right click, add one item to new request, select the route, and then this is the supply, so I want to make sure I choose the supply procedure route or the supply route. And I would say update pricing for supplies. And select submit. And when you're doing the request, and as we go into this tab, you'll notice as I click on this, and on the right-hand side, you'll see grayed out information. This is marked because you are read-only as a requester, because you cannot modify UGSI and SPSI descriptions, revenue codes, or CPT codes, as that all is generated from the corporate standard. But what I can do is I can go in here, and I know I'm going in here to change a price on the supply. I can go right down here and update my effective date. Let's put 10/3. And my new price. And I can save that. And everything else is very similar. You can go in there and put comments as to why you're updating your price, and it will go through, and your finance department will review to do their algorithms to mark up the price as needed. In a similar area, if I didn't come in here to do a price increase and I knew I needed to inactivate this charge, I would come through and I would actually go to the stop date, which is right here, and I would put in today's date, because I know that I no longer need this charge and I can inactivate it for my department. And as I hit save, vitalware knows that this is going to be an inactivation, and so it's going to flag it for deletion right here. So if you ever see that red X flag, you know that you've just marked your item to be inactivated, and if it was a mistake, you can always go through and take that stop date off and save it again, and it will take that flag off to inactivate it. But from a facility standpoint, those are the two main things that you're able to do as a requester for a change or an activation in your department. Anything else would have to come from the corporate, as all that main data comes from the corporate standard now, including pricing. If you would like to look at additional requests that you have, you can always go back to your request tab. And not look for that one particular request. All your requests that you have submitted will be right here. And then if you need to go and say, okay, I knew I had a request, perhaps it was approved, you can go over here to the left-hand side and do your approved. If it was denied, you can do that as well and hit search. Down here is the filter. So if you had your request ID, or you can filter down by your name, just to bring back that information. So if you're doing any research on any past request that you have submitted. All right, so if I'm going to take you back to the main dashboard here, because I want to show you that in this upper left corner, right over here, is additional training information. So if after this session and you want to go into the live webinar from Vitalware, which they present for their clients, you're welcome to go over here to register for any of these live webinars. And I would stick to the ones that say Vital CDM. Here's a reporting one. Here's the workflow that we just spoke through right here. And so you can go in here and register for any of these particular webinars if you would like. If you have any additional information, you are welcome to contact the system administrator or the CDM manager, and we would be happy to help you. Thank you very much.